Hello, good afternoon. I am Dr. Lewis, the founder of the After I Do Academy. I am so excited to come to you and talk to you about 5 keys to keep the chaos out of your relationship. For those of you who don't know me, I am the owner of the After I Do Academy. You can connect with me at afteridoacademy.com. My work has been featured all over the world. I've been featured in NBC, Magazine, PBS, Wall Street Journal, Cosmopolitan, the American Psychological Association. I am a psychologist, and I work with couples every day, and I see that couples are struggling with a few different things: communication, intimacy, rebuilding trust. So I want to share inside of this summit today some of the things that I think will make a difference in you keeping the chaos out of your relationship. So the first thing is we're going to talk about communication. And with communication, I want to share with you some nuggets on how to master the art of communication. I'm going to share with you some concrete things that you can do to get some real quality time in with your partner. I'm going to also share with you about how to build intimacy. We'll talk about financial strategies, how you can have better resources to be able to do the things that you love to do. So we're going to talk about those 5 things. And lastly, we're going to talk about expectations. So let's get right into it. So expectations. We put everything that is stressful in our lives on our partners. Like, imagine if I wrote a job description for a spouse. It might read something like this: money manager, housekeeper, driver, porn star, mother, father, teacher, coach, counselor, wardrobe consultant, and my favorite, diplomat of the in-laws. Like, who wants that job? Who could be all of those things all of the time? I know I couldn't. I have been with my husband for 18 years now, and it is a number of things that we have gone through in just navigating a long-term relationship. And I want to just kind of give you some of those key elements that have been difference makers. So the first thing out of the 5 is expectations. You have to manage your expectations, and you have to make sure that your expectations are based in reality, because sometimes we expect that our partner is going to be that ready to have sex at a drop of a dime. We expect that our partner is going to be able to bring in all of the money all the time. And how many of you know that sometimes, especially during times like this with the pandemic, things have changed. A lot of things have changed. Maybe you've lost someone in your life. Maybe your spouse has lost a job, or maybe you've lost your job. And so with that, we're going to need to adjust our expectations and work together as a team. Now, the second thing to keep the chaos out of your relationship is you have to make sure that you are communicating well with your partner. Now, a lot of couples tell me, I know how to communicate, Dr. Lewis. I know how to communicate. But what they really mean is, I know how to tell you what I need to tell you. And that's not necessarily effective communication. Effective communication is, I communicate a message in a manner in which my partner can hear it and receive it, and they receive that message. That's effective communication. Sometimes we're yelling, or we making a mountain out of a molehill, and it makes it difficult for the other person to really listen to us, for the other person to really be willing to like take in what we're saying. If you're like, you did this and you always do that, then it can come across as critical. And when a person feels criticized, they get defensive and their wall goes up. So I want to share with you one thing that I share with the couples that I work with in the After I Do Academy on how you can communicate in a way that helps your partner hear what you have to say. So write this down. When X happens, I feel Y, I'd like Z. When X happens, I feel Y, I'd like Z. X is something specific. Y is a feeling word. Feeling words are like sad, anxious, disappointed, worried. And then the last one is a recipe for success, something that you really desire for your partner. Make it easy for them to win. Make it easy for them to know what you're asking for. So say, for example, I come into the house and I say, oh my gosh, when I look at these dishes, I feel so overwhelmed because I just washed the dishes yesterday. Would you please, like, twice a week, if you could, like, take care of the dishes and get Billy ready for school in the morning, that would take a huge load off of me. So what did I do in that moment? I didn't criticize them. I didn't say, you lazy, you don't never wash the dishes, because then they're going to shut down. So instead, I focused on what's happening. What am I feeling as a result of what's happening? And what would I like to happen instead? I made a specific positive request. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. Now, another thing that I do with the couples that I work with in the After I Do Academy is I do what's called the Imago Dialogue. So basically what the Imago Dialogue is one person is the listener and one person is the speaker. Now, the person that's the listener, their job is to help their spouse feel safe, to open up to them, to share with them their heart. So they suspend all judgment. They're just there to take in what their partner is saying. Now, for the speaker, if you're the speaker in the Imago Dialogue, then your job is to state your feelings using I statements that express a positive need. So, when I was watching a movie today and the theme of the movie was infidelity, instantly I felt triggered because it reminded me of the issues that we've been having with trust. Would you be open to us going to couples therapy, right? So I stated my feelings, I expressed a positive need, and then now with the Imago Dialogue, the other person's job is to reflect back to them what they heard their partner say. And trust me, as a couples therapist, I hear all sorts of different reflections where I'm like, no, that's not what she said. And so instead, I really help the listener to start like this. So basically what you're saying is, that's what you need to start with. So what I hear you to be saying is, when you watched the movie and it brought up infidelity, that made you triggered and you'd like for us to go to couples therapy. Is that right? And so you're just reflecting what you heard your partner say. You're not judging. You're not saying, no, I'm not going to counseling. You're just listening. And the role as the listener, you can just suspend your feelings for a moment just to hear what your spouse is saying. This dialogue is so important. Now, the next level of the dialogue is validation. It's something so special about hearing your experience be validated by your partner. So what that looks like is I'll turn to the couple who's the listener, the partner who's the listener, and I'll say, what part of what she said could you validate? And so it may be that I can't agree with every single thing that my spouse says all the time, but it may be, I get it. I get how watching a movie and the theme of the movie triggered you. Like, I get how that made you sad. It makes sense to me that you would want us to get some support for our relationship. Whatever parts of what they said make sense, validate that. And this will help build some momentum so that you can get to the point of resolving conflict. Communication is one of the #1 reasons why couples divorce. It's not intimacy, it's not money issues, it's communication. So I believe that if you can get the communication under control by following these steps, they will help save a lot of problems and save you a lot of money from divorce court. Now, the next thing is that couples tell me all the time that, hey, I am just overwhelmed. I don't have enough time. I'm working all the time. I work a lot with people in high profile positions, like people who are in people who are pastors, musicians, doctors, lawyers, and a lot of times they tell me, Dr. Lewis, I just don't have a lot of time. And so what I say is, let's just set aside 5 hours that you can dedicate to your marriage each week. Now, let me break down for you what those 5 hours look like. So, the first part is partings. Write this down. Partings. Partings is giving your partner a warm farewell. Before they leave for today, give your partner like a warm hug to say like, hey, like, have a good day. What do you have planned for today? Have a cup of coffee. Maybe you have a prayer with your partner, but something at the beginning of the day. Now, reunions. Reunions are 20 minutes at the end of the day where you check in with your spouse and you say, babe, I know you was going to have that big meeting. How did the meeting go? It's crucially important that if you want to be in this relationship long term, that you dedicate time to really getting in tuned with what's happening in your spouse's world. Get in tuned with that. And the way you do that is by both of you sharing what's happening for you. It may be like, I just got a major a change in my supervisor, and I'm really stressed out about having this person as my supervisor. That may be something that you do, but it's important that you have some time, and I would say 20 minutes each day, Monday through Friday, where you're having time for your reunions. Now, if you're ready for the third one, get ready to write down admiration and appreciation. So often we take each other for granted. We start to feel like, oh, you're just supposed to cook dinner. You're just supposed to like teach the kids. You're supposed to wash the clothes. When in reality, it is an act of love. And people who feel appreciated, they do more. And sometimes with the type of work that I do in the After I Do Academy, I see that so often couples can start to take each other for granted and just miss looking at each other, giving each other eye contact and saying, boo, you look good today. Babe, you are wearing that outfit. Husband, you are smelling so good. Like, you need to be the first person to let your spouse know when they're looking good. When they do a good thing for you, they make a nice dinner. That steak was delicious. You put your foot in that steak. Like, you need to make sure that you pour into your spouse. And I would say you need 5 times as much positive interaction to counter any one negative interaction. And when I say negative interaction, I mean criticizing your partner, telling them they're not doing a good job. For every one criticism, you need to have 5 times as much positive interaction. Now, that's admiration and appreciation. 5 minutes, 7 days a week, dedicate towards showing your partner that you appreciate him or her. Now, the next one is physical touch. Physical touch is a really important part of building a healthy relationship. It's something that happens when you cuddle, when you hold hands, when you kiss, when you feel that physical closeness with your spouse. We release positive endorphins in our body. One of those positive endorphins is called oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love hormone. It's the bonding hormone. It was there in the beginning when you first started today, but sometimes somewhere along the lines we just stop connecting physically. Maybe we get busy, we get tired, we have to manage so many different things, and before you know it, the sexual part of your relationship has died. But not for you, because you signed up for this virtual summit. So I want you to make sure that you are showing your partner some affection, whether it's a kiss, whether it's a little smack on the butt, whether it's a hug from behind, and sex. Sex is important too. So ask your partner, what can I do to love you better? Tell me about your sexual fantasy and get creative. It doesn't have to be the same way all the time, same position. Like, we can mix it up, and it's important that we do. So maybe one day you go to a hotel and you're like, okay, we're gonna leave these kids at home. We're gonna get a babysitter, and we're gonna go somewhere to kind of get that joy, that zhuzh back. Now, if you're ready for the 5th way that you can keep the chaos out of your relationship, this is the 4th one. So the 5th one is intimacy. Intimacy is essential. And as I said before, I want you to have 5 minutes every day where you're having some form of physical touch. Now, the fifth one is date night. Couples need to date. You need to date. You need to go out, get dressed. Ladies, put your heels on, do your hair, do your makeup. Guys, shower, change your underwear, like wear a nice outfit, and take your lady on a date or take your guy on a date. You know, it's important that not one person feel the whole burden of being responsible for all the dating in the relationship. And what I tell my couples in the After I Do Academy is I say, I want you to write down a list of 10 things, and you write down a list of 10 things that you always wanted to do with your partner. And maybe these are free activities. Like, I'd love to go on a picnic in the park. I'd love for us to go hiking. I live in Atlanta and it's a beautiful waterfall here. And so that could be something that is a date night. Maybe we'll have a candlelight dinner at home, or we'll give each other a massage. We'll have a sexy scavenger hunt. Like, exhaust the possibilities, because possibilities exist. And so I want you to be mindful of just making sure that it happens at least once a week, 2 hours, alone time, just you and your partner every week. So those are my 5 tips on how you can have more quality time. Now, we're going to go back into the things that keeps the chaos out of your relationship. So intimacy is important. Intimacy is the 4th thing on how to keep the chaos out of your relationship. And so with intimacy, you want to have some novelty. Novelty, like, helps you keep the sexy in your relationship. The brain responds differently to novelty. So when the brain experiences something new, when we look at brain scans, there's things that light up in the brain when it's seeing something visually new that it hasn't before. I also tell my couples in the After I Do Academy about the all-day foreplay. So all-day foreplay is this idea of sex just doesn't happen in the bedroom. This is for the guys out there. Men and women are different when it comes to sex. For a lot of men, it could just be a look and it's on. Like, she just rub you a little bit and you ready to go. Whereas for women, I like to think of us like ovens that need to be preheated. And so maybe preheating the oven is putting the laundry on. So that's one less thing she has to think about. Or maybe preheating the oven is like giving her non-sexual touches, where you just give her a massage and without it even needing to lead up to sex. You want to have moments throughout the day where you're touching, you're kissing, you're telling each other, I miss you, I'm thinking about you. When you get home, baby, it is on. That's one of the things that I talk about in my book, Marital Peace. It's up there in the corner, Marital Peace. And so I talk about this concept of all-day foreplay, and it's necessary. Now, guys, let's talk about the 5th way that you can keep the chaos out of your relationship. The 5th tip is you need to discuss finances. Now, I know that in being in a relationship for over 18 years, my husband and I have definitely gone through challenges, periods where I wasn't working and he had to take on the lion's share of the responsibility, like when I was in graduate school, and then periods where he wasn't bringing in as much money as he would like to provide financially for us in his business. And so we really have had to figure out ways to work together. I remember when we was in college, we had to get on food stamps just to make sure that we could sustain ourselves. And so if you're in a long-term relationship, there will be moments where you're going to need to pull together financially. And I'll never forget, it was about 2 years ago, my husband and I, we were walking around Piedmont Park in Atlanta, and we were saying, like, wouldn't it be cool to just travel abroad together for like 6 months? Like, wouldn't that be cool? And so we did it. We actually made a financial plan. We saved and we made it happen. We went to Europe. We went to Asia. We went to five countries in Africa. And it was life-changing for me, that experience. But it wouldn't have happened if we didn't work together financially. So I want you guys to dream together. I want you guys to think about what are your financial goals and how can you make it happen as a team. Maybe sometimes that means cutting back on certain things. Like there was a while where I was like, I'm not getting my nails done. We cutting this cable bill down, and we were able to save so that we can make that dream happen. And I believe that you can do the exact same. The other thing that you want to think about as it relates to working together financially is you want to think about how can we contribute percentages instead of, like, say you have a joint account and you have mutual expenses, but one person makes substantially more than the other person. Then they can contribute a percentage. Say we both contribute a 50% of our income to our joint account, and we have some cushion so that if it's something nice we want to do for ourselves or for our mate, we can do that without checking in and say, hey babe, I want to go buy some makeup, is that okay? Like, you need to talk about, like, what is the barrier, like what's the extent of, like, if you spend it over this amount, I think we should talk about it. You guys determine that number together. The other thing around finances, the fourth thing, is that you want to have a State of the Union conversation. Write this down. State of the Union conversation is where we have a dedicated time every week to talk about the money, to talk about, babe, I thought I was going to get that bonus, but that bonus didn't come through, so maybe we need to make some adjustments. Or, babe, the taxes are due, like, we need to start preparing to save to pay our taxes. Or, I mean, anything. It's so many different things that come up with your children, with your family, that might be unexpected. But if you plan for it and you work together and you put some savings together, when you have those State of the Union conversations, they will be so much more productive. So I want to see you guys winning financially. I want to see you guys thriving and creating an abundant life. I just went to Barbados for a month and a half, and that trip really was so relaxing. It was so fulfilling, but it's because that me and my partner, like, we're pretty clear about setting good financial goals. And budgeting is not a bad word. Like, I know budgeting gets a bad rap, but it's not a bad word, because budgeting allows for you to have the type of financial resources to create a life that you love living. And I was finding for myself that I was spending money on things that I didn't even value. I was like eating out every week, and I'm like, I would prefer to go to Barbados than eat out. Now, that's not the same for everybody, but find what is that one thing for you that you would rather spend money on this and cut money in another area so that you have the resources to do the things that matter the most. And I want you to discuss your dreams together. I want you to have a weekly date where you talk about what are your big financial goals. That's what I want you to do in the State of the Union meeting. So, guys, I'm going to give you a quick recap of what are the 5 things to keep the chaos out of your relationship. The first thing we talked about is expectations. We have to manage our expectations. The second thing we talked about is communication. I want you to follow those tips on how you can communicate effectively with your partner. The third thing is quality time. We have to dedicate some time to our relationship if we want it to grow and thrive. Intimacy was the fourth thing. We got to make sure we're making time for loving on each other, holding hands, kissing, having some creativity. And lastly, we talked about finances. If you can get on the same page when it comes to how you're spending the money, what you're doing with the money, I believe that your marriage can truly transform. Guys, if you want to connect with me, then you can go to AfterIDoAcademy.com. When you join the After I Do Academy, I pour in lots of great resources from expert interviews that I have had. It's over 10 hours of content right there on communication, on intimacy, and also a topic that we didn't go into as much detail today about, but rebuilding trust. So if you know that anything that I have said today has resonated with you, then I want you to go over to the AfterIDoAcademy.com. You'll also get a Q&A session with me every month. Inside that Q&A session with me, you're speaking to a licensed psychologist, a couples therapist that does this every single week, helps couples get unstuck so you could stop fussing and fighting, so you could get back to that marriage that you said I do to. It was a pleasure being with you guys here today. I look forward to working with you. Bye for now.